I'm waiting to say something on this podcast that's gonna get me canceled in a couple years. Like they're gonna dig this up. And they're gonna be like, Tom Roche said what?
Yeah.
And everyone's gonna try
These
to cancel
days,
me. Yeah. If America's still around, I don't know. Maybe society will crumble.
If you talk
before
about
then.
like Goya beans or something.
That thing was. I like. All right. I'm not. I don't. How do I put it? Let me choose my words carefully.
Yeah. Be careful, dude.
I'm not actually sure. I have to.
There's a guy with a crossbow aiming it through that window right now, and he'll cancel you quick.
I don't fuck with Republicans. I don't fuck with Democrats. I just don't believe it. Yeah. I'm not. I wouldn't even say I'm apolitical. I just like I feel some type of way about like two-party system and stuff like that. But I'm not politically intelligent. Like I'm not.
Yeah,
here.
same.
But I like saying things that'll upset either. Like that's where I'm going with that. Like when the whole Goya thing went down. Anyone watching, I don't know, but what was it? The CEO of Goya basically was like, Trump's doing a good job.
And then everybody's like, no more Goya.
Yeah, and I just, as someone who's Puerto Rican and is Goya, like I just found it funny because I'm like, I wonder how many people who I know are Puerto Rican and are like, fuck Trump, understandably, are gonna like, I wonder what, because I know a lot of people who boycott certain things like Chick-fil-A or this and that. But I always notice that in my experience, people tend to boycott things that they maybe aren't already. Like. Going after, so I was like, I wonder if people are gonna like let go of Goya. Or, it's just funny to watch it go down.
It's crazy though. It's so crazy. Like, at what point does somebody stand up and be like, all of this cancel culture is really taking away from the main objective of all these really important movements? You know, in a sense, because I mean, think about how many brands have been defaced in the past few months. Like, it's almost like so. The objective of defacing those brands was obviously to eliminate oppression or racism or whatever, right?
What are a couple brands like
Aunt Jemima? I think the Bendito burrito, and
I'm familiar with the Aunt Jemima.
The Redskins as a team. Like, so
how do you feel about that? Like,
well, it's funny because you think about it, and it's stripping. So now on TV, driving down the road, in the grocery store, the only thing you see now are white people on everything. Because they're taking everybody who's of a different culture away.
I understand it because I feel I get what you're saying because you're not saying like, oh, they shouldn't be. I don't know if I'm putting words in your mouth. You're saying it's not that they shouldn't be stripped, but you feel like by taking away these images who aren't white, it's just leaving more white people behind, more like making. I don't know if I'm putting it.
Well, no. So, instance, now you're walking down the grocery store. Nobody really knows anymore who Aunt Jemima is. But the point is, it was a good brand, and everybody loved it. And I don't know if say she was alive today, would she not want to be the face of a popular syrup? I don't see how that's a bad thing. You know what I mean?
So I agree and I disagree. So I get where you're coming from. From the way I see it is, it's like I get Redskins because it's kind of like. It's like it's an insult, right? So you have like, if you're Native American, it's like, ooh, like I don't, you know what I mean? I feel like the Native American voice. I think the Native Americans
would rather. I don't know if it was
rather,
ever like meant to be an insult, more just like a name.
It's taken as one. You know what I mean?
Is
I
it?
think that's
do you think it evolved into one, based off of how people feel about it now, or did somebody like name?
I don't know what the origin is, but I'm sure it's just like. I don't,
because I don't know either.
I'm sure it's just the connotation of people using a word.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, ooh, I don't like how that, like I associate that word with something negative towards me, you know? But with Aunt Jemima, from what I understand, is it's kind of like Aunt Jemima represents this caricature of like, because it's like, slaves were free. And I'm simplifying this. Like there's someone who's going to hear me and be like, I can explain that way better than him.
Yeah.
But, slaves were freed. But then you have the house slaves, but then you still had black people were still delegated to these like roles at like the at-home cook and this kind of like the auntie and the mammy, and I think people are kind of trying to get rid of that imagery, which is understandable. Like I'm for it actually. I don't have a problem with it. I think people would be like, look, I'd rather have, not that this is the case, but I'm sure people would rather have no black representation than Aunt Jemima. People would rather have like, look, like.
But what about the Quaker's Oats guy? That guy had to have been a slave owner. You think? You ever see? Look at the guy. Do you ever see the guy in the front of the Quaker Oats? That dude looks exactly like a pilgrim.
If he was, okay. See, here's the thing. I don't mind people getting canceled for stuff like slavery. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's stuff like if Kevin Hart makes a joke.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's misconstrued, and he changes, and he don't even think he needs to apologize for it. It's like you're a different person. You've evolved from that brand of comedy. You don't need to be canceled. when it becomes actual racism and caricatures, it's like, all right, I think we can move on for that. You know what I mean? If people want to tear down statues and stuff like that, go ahead. Like fucking.
Well, that is America.
Remember
That's
your
true.
history. Remember your history, because we I think keep teaching it, right? You know, I think some people make the argument of like, oh, if you like tear down these statues, you're gonna forget your history. It's like, oh, well, you don't need a statue of Hitler up to remember World War II.
Put them in a museum or something, or if we even need them at all. Yeah, that is true. I mean, honestly, but I just feel like, in a sense, the primary objective flips itself a little bit, because now you have an all-white America in a sense. Because how many figures are?
I disagree, because it's like first, I feel like
Captain Crunch.
I think
Colonel Sanders.
I don't think black people.
These are the people we see now.
Because it's like as a Puerto Rican, as a black person, as a Mexican person, I'm not worried about my face on cereal. You know what I mean? Like I like representation in like media. You know what I mean? Like,
true.
But I like if someone's like, if anything, I hate that. Like I hate, for example, there's a character. Are you familiar with the show Big Mouth on Netflix?
Oh my gosh, I've never watched it, but I've seen it.
There's
I've seen it
a character on there, and I think I might be getting it wrong, but it's something along the lines of, I think there's a character on there, and she's black and Jewish.
Yeah.
And she's voiced by, I believe,
Bluish.
She's bluish. She's bluish. She's Jack. She's Black, but she's voiced by, I think, a Jewish voice actress. But they're like, for representation, we're gonna recast her for a black person.
That's messed up.
I don't think that's really what people are worried about. You know what I mean?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
And also, if you're gonna take, so she's half black, half Jewish. You're gonna get rid of someone who's Jewish.
Yeah.
To have someone who's black, but you're still it's still half and half.
Doesn't matter, because Mickey Mouse wasn't a mouse. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, I think a lot of, again, back to the first thing I was saying, these little stupid things are taking away from the most important thing, which is changing the present. Because you can't change the past. Aunt Jemima will always be Aunt Jemima. You couldn't, even if she.
You can change the face though. You can say like, we're gonna make it Uncle
you mean
Tom.
Aunt Jamie.
Aunt Karen. We're gonna make it Aunt Karen.
But my point is that Aunt Jemima was still Aunt Jemima, right? So rather than put so much time and energy and focus and publicity into changing things that really can't be changed, you can, again, from the aesthetic standpoint, of course, you can strip them and change them up a little bit, but I think that takes away focus from the main problem. I
agree. I think you can't change the history. You can't change the present, and I don't think it needs to be super publicized.
And at what point, too, did we forget that we're all humans? How often do we keep, like, instituting races? Like, there's no difference between somebody who's, like, a Mexican and Asian. There's literally no difference.
I think it
those
comes
are two
into,
humans.
It comes into why race is so important. I agree. I think it shouldn't be, right? Like in an
it's
ideal
kind of a
world.
weird to think about.
But I think the thing is that people are treated differently. But like even as Puerto Rican, like I notice there's a lot of racism between, like, I notice like I have like I know Puerto Ricans and Puerto Rican family members who might say something racist about Dominicans or black people.
Yeah.
But it blows my mind. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I know people who might say something racist against, like, I'm like, because it's not all white people. You know what I mean? Like every race, not everyone from every race, but there are different people of different races who are racist towards a lot of different races.
Yeah.
And I think that is, to answer your question, is like, what is different really between like a Mexican and an Asian person? And it comes down to not the internal, but the external. It's the way people treat them. And that's why it's so important, right?
Yeah.
People are like, well, people are fighting to be treated like a human. They're wondering the same thing. Like, why are you treating me different because I'm black?
Right.
Why? Because I'm Puerto Rican.
Do you think there's like an overwhelming amount of display that these people are different from each other? Because what I'm saying is fundamentally
overwhelming display. Do you
like
mean
meaning there's just a lot of emphasis, publicity, and reminders in a sense that constantly that we're different. I feel like throughout the media, like there's constantly segregation.
The media doesn't help. Like I believe like the movements and stuff are valid.
Yeah.
And the media, I don't think the media tries to help. The people try to help themselves.
Yeah.
And I feel like the media perpetuates fear.